Greetings. This is Brian Harris with the Independent Black Voters Speak, and I'm here with our new host of our new show, Bria. Bria is going to be the host of Millennial Speak. How you doing today, Bria?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, folks, this series of Know Your Candidates is all about, are we our brother and sisters keepers? If we are, we must know the candidates that are running in the elections. Many times, the primary may determine in the nonpartisan groups who is actually the winner. There may not be a general election. It is also important that the right people represent us. So we're encouraging you through this series to be an informed voter. We're encouraging you to vet all of the candidates so that we can be our brothers and sisters keeper. Today, we are proud to have attorney Lisa Szyc here. Lisa, how are you today?
I'm good, Ryan. Thank you for having me. Hi, Bria.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit. Tell us who you are. Tell us what department you're running in.
As Brian mentioned, my name is Lisa Szyc, and I'm running for Family Court Department S. I have been an attorney in Clark County, Nevada for 10 years. All 10 of those years, I've been a criminal defense attorney, and for the last 7 years, I've been practicing in the areas of family law as well. I have experience in family court cases, including child support, child custody, child dependency, child delinquency, and guardianships, and TPO cases. And I've represented both sides of the TPO, both the applicant and the adverse party. I have an understanding of the issues that face people when they walk into family court and some of the biases that happen before they even walk through the doors of the courtroom.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And again, this is the Independent Black Voters Speak. And we are here to talk specifically about issues that are, I'd say, more focused on the black community. Because as we said, if we address the issues in the black community, the tide rises for everyone. So Bria, you're going to start off. We're going to have Bria start off and ask a couple of questions of you today, Lisa.
Sure, no problem. Well, my first question, which is I'm extremely interested to know about. I know that you went to an HBCU, right, for law school?
I did. I am a proud graduate of the class of 2009 of North Carolina Central. Go Eagles. That was a unique and an interesting experience for me. I had no idea that Central was an HBCU until I got my acceptance letter. And I did some research, and based on my research, they had the best bar pass rate, the highest graduation rate, the most affordable tuition, and I decided to move from Las Vegas to Durham, and I don't regret that decision at all.
Nice.
Going to Central taught me how to be empathetic in a way that I was not before. Going to Central opened my eyes to a slew of issues, including social justice issues, Brian, as well as racial issues. And honestly, I can say with certainty that being a graduate of an HBCU, especially North Carolina Central School of Law, has shaped the woman that I am today. I would not be who I am, and I would not practice law and have the empathy and unbiased that I do if I had not had my experiences while at school.
Nice. Okay. Now I have another question. I know that you've focused on criminal and family law. So my next question to you is, how would you treat someone coming into your family court that's already fighting a criminal case?
Bria, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you've asked it. My campaign platform essentially has been that I believe there's a need for change in Department S, and I'm the person to bring that change because I have criminal and family experiences. I have an understanding of how the criminal justice system works in a way that I don't think any judge sitting on the bench in family court does right now. And that will allow me, and having that understanding and that background of what's happening in the companion criminal case will allow me to make better decisions in the family cases. One thing that I'd like to point out that not a lot of people know, sometimes, especially in cases involving domestic abuse, a judge's hands are tied because there are actually statutory requirements that a judge has to take into consideration in determining physical custody of a minor child. When there is that allegation of domestic abuse, it's a rebuttable presumption. But one thing that I've come to learn as a family and a criminal attorney is sometimes it's just that. It's just an allegation. And we see parents being put in a position where their children are being taken from them because the other parent has said, he hit me or she hit me. And judges are making poor choices because they don't understand exactly how the criminal case can impact the family case.
Nice. Okay. I do have one more question for you. Now, on the last opinion poll that was done by the Review Journal, they reviewed your opponent who's currently has seat as judge, Judge Ochoa, and he got a really low score, it seems. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on that, and do you feel that change is needed in that courtroom?
100% yes, I think that change is needed. In fact, I made the decision to run for Family Court Department S when there are 25 other departments I could have run in, because I feel so strongly that there is a need for change in this department. Interestingly enough, about the Judging the Judges poll, only attorneys fill out that survey, and the number of attorneys that participated in that survey were very low this year, because the last time it was done, there were some questions about the anonymity, and lawyers did not want to candidly speak about the judges that they were appearing in front of. So even with the low participation, my incumbent opponent got a low score, and I think that speaks volumes as to he couldn't even put together enough people to give him a favorable score. I think that his record from the bench speaks for itself. A lot of times it's been my experience that Judge Ochoa is not prepared. He's not familiar with the issues of the case. And sometimes he who wines the loudest wines the most. And Judge Ochoa will make decisions based on the person who makes the most noise in a courtroom. That is not how cases should be decided. That is not how litigants should be treated. Whether they have an attorney or not, there should be an opportunity for each party to speak their piece, make their case, and the decision should be made based on the facts relevant to that case, not on who the attorney is or whether or not a party is represented.
Okay. All right, great answers, great questions. Thank you, Bria.
Of course.
So, Lisa, again, this is the Independent Black Voters, and I believe it's important that we get to know that person, because social justice is not something that happens by accident. Social justice is when we get involved ahead of the curve. During our conversations, we talked about the Lisa Szyc, which I hadn't heard of, or if it just was a real glancing blow of understanding that racism and bias are still alive today. You were actually in school in 2006, 2007, correct?
I was.
Law school. Tell people a little bit about the Lisa Szyc, because I was completely unaware of it until you told me a little bit about it.
So, a brief history of the Lisa Szyc. There was a small town in Louisiana, Jena, Louisiana, that in August of 2006, there were students attending high school, and 3 black boys went to the principal and asked for permission to sit under the whites-only tree. Yes, folks, you heard me. In 2006, in Louisiana, there was a whites-only tree. These boys went and got permission to sit under that tree, and they did. And when they came to school the next day, they walked into 3 nooses hanging from the tree in their courtyard. And every time they tried to seek punishment for the individuals that were identified as hanging the nooses, they were told it was an innocent prank and that they needed to let it go. The situation festered over several months and ultimately ended with 6 boys getting into a fight, 6 black boys getting into a fight with several white boys at the local convenience store. And you know who was charged? 6 black boys, and hence the name Lisa Szyc. And they were charged with crimes like assault and battery and attempt murder and attempt second-degree murder. And there were no charges against the white boys for their innocent prank. And the DA's office went on record of saying that they could be these boys' best friends or their worst enemies. And there were lots of protests that happened. It was the first time that I really got to see social justice and the movement and protesting, because my law school put together a bus trip, and several students from the school went on that trip. And it was really exciting to see people come together and rally and have a voice for change, because everyone knew that situation was wrong, that this was a case of racial bias, that this was a case of overcharging, that this was a case of every step of the way these kids being let down by the system. Because I'll remind you, there were 6 high school boys. They were still in school.
And I believe some of them were facing 100 years in jail.
That's correct.
Folks, I say this, and I thank you for telling us, giving us an update, Lisa. Social justice will only happen when we become our brother and sister's keeper. That starts with voting. That starts now. Folks, we have 66 judicial seats that are up. if we don't vote for the right candidates, if we don't demand equal justice now, then we're waiting to see our Gen 6 happen. Because folks, racism, biased, all the ugly things are still alive today. Contrary to what a lot of people want to believe with their rosy glasses, that, oh, that was in the past, it is here today. And when we don't vote, we are basically accepting what happens. I saw a shirt that says, silence is violence. When you don't vote, you are silent. So, Lisa, give me your opinion. I mean, you've been here for 10 years. Do you think there's room for improvement? Do you think there are biases on here? Do you think that we need to have change? And I'll say that because here's my motto. Pick 6 for change.
Thank you, Brian. I do believe that there's a need for change. I do think that bias is alive and well. I've had the unique experience of spending time on both coasts and in the South, right? The most racial bias that you see are kind of in those southern states and those Midwestern states. It's not as prevalent here in Las Vegas as it is like...
It's subtle. It's not...
It is, exactly. That's a great word. I love that. It is subtle because, well, you're a black man. You ever been pulled over just because you were driving while black?
Absolutely. My sons, I lived in Henderson. It was pretty much a weekly chore that they ended up kissing the pavement just because of the color they were and the car and the type of car they drove.
And that's a perfect example, Brian, because I've been pulled over twice in Las Vegas and around Clark County, and I've never been asked to get out of my car. I've never been asked to get on my knees or put my hands behind my head or my hands out the window. Those are things that just don't happen for me because I'm a white woman. Your experience of being pulled over and my experience are going to be very different. So when and that is not so subtle, but it's a thing that's happening. And so when there are people that get elected to positions to serve the members of Clark County, like me running for judge, it's important that the people you elect into these positions have at least some understanding of what difficulties you might be facing in life outside of that courtroom. I can say I don't know what it means to be pulled over and pulled out of my car, but I have an understanding that it is something that happens. I can at least acknowledge that it's a problem. And I have friends and people that are very close to me through my law school experiences that it has happened too.
Yes. And folks, as I said, this is Independent Black Voters. I want to encourage you, just because you hear a name, just because there's an incumbent, doesn't mean that they are the right people for our community. We are doing the Independent Black Voters Speak. We are vetting candidates. And hint, if they're not willing to talk about the truths, the injustice, the biases, the need for social reform, then why are we voting for them? And I don't care what color of skin you have. If you're not willing to stand up, why are we voting for them? So this is one of our endorsements. After vetting and talking to Lisa Szyc, am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
The Independent Black Voters would like to endorse her candidacy and ask you to stick for your family court judge. We thank you very much. We look forward to you. I want to say something. Some people will say, oh, she's young. Well, folks, a lot of the inherent biases come from people who have been there too long. So we need to bring in change. We need to have a breath of fresh air, not just in her seat, but up and down the seats. It is not prevalent to me to what party you are, it's what kind of a person you are. Thank you very much, Lisa, for coming and doing an interview for us. And again, we will follow, we will push, and we will support you as you go forward to make a change.
Thank you, Brian and Bria. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your support. I'm very excited to be a part of an organization or have the endorsement of an organization like yours, because I think the message you are sending is so strong and needs to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you. Bria, any last words?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to interview with us and answering my questions, and I'm happy to do it again. I'm happy to endorse you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, this is the Independent Black Voters signing off, and the countdown begins. Are you your brother's keeper? Are you an educated voter?